Hey, what's going on, everybody? Glad you're here. Haven't done a stream in a while, but there's a lot to talk about with the coaching changes. First off, I want to shout out to everybody that is here. Hopefully, the audio's good enough. Had some difficulties earlier, but appreciate everybody for stopping by. I see a lot of names that are familiar. Mason, of course, Craig, Dennis, Wakala Kane is here, David Smith, Eli is here. So hopefully everything's okay. Let me know how things are going right now for you guys. If you have any questions, and basically, I'm going to start the way I'm going to do this stream. I'm going to start off with talking about the coaching changes, my thoughts on it, maybe some impacts on that, and then get to Tyrique Stevenson, and then Tate Martell had an article on the site. I know there's a lot of discussion about Tate, so there's articles on the links below in the comments section if you guys are interested in checking those out. Hurricane Logan is here as well, so I appreciate you. Okay, want to make sure we got things going here. Once again, always trying to get things right. And hopefully you guys are doing okay, doing well. There's a lot to get to. I know the biggest thing that was going on with the coaching changes, we'll just get right into it, but a lot of it had to do with Coach Blake Baker. A lot of criticism with Blake over this past season, over the last 2 years, really. Miami, you guys have seen the defense slip a little bit, and then obviously when what happens against North Carolina, it's glaring. And also you saw it against Clemson, just not competitive, and then the disappointment in the bowl game. So I understand why people are frustrated. And my biggest takeaway with what's going on, and if you guys haven't heard, Manny Diaz announced publicly that he will go ahead and call plays for the upcoming season. And with that, I don't think it's a huge surprise. Over this past week or two, talking to different people, different sources, and different people that don't know each other in a sense, but there was a discussion about, they kept feeling like Manny was already calling plays, or he certainly had his input in that, which makes sense that he could have been involved a little bit more than what was known. And I know there were times throughout the year we would ask Manny about his actual involvement with the defense just to get a clarification. And he would say, and we know that because from being down there, he was always at practice down with the defense almost all the time. That's just where he spends his time. Obviously, he's coached with Blake Baker before, so it's essentially his defense. So I don't think it's necessarily going to be this huge thing, but it's certainly that he's taken the responsibility onto himself about calling plays. So hopefully, whether he was doing it some or a little, or providing some input, or whatever was going on in the past, hopefully now there's just more clarity of Manny he is announcing that he is going to call the plays. He's keeping Blake on board, which doesn't surprise me. I think you guys saw some of the VIP coaching updates I had on the website. The things that were standing out to me, I wasn't convinced that Blake was going to be let go. And I know that there was a lot of criticism. It felt like they were going to try to keep him on board if they could, and we'll see how this role works out. He's still going to be in control of the defense, and what that means is, still going to, you know, organize the defense in terms of stuff with practices, and definitely going to have his hands on a lot of things. It'll just be Manny that is announcing that he's calling the plays. So Blake's now the biggest thing with Blake is his role as a linebackers coach. He's going to be the inside linebackers coach. He's been coaching linebackers here, but I think, and I had an article on the site about the development of the linebackers, because to me that was the biggest problem with the defense this past year. And I know there's a lot of attention on the cornerbacks. We'll get to that obviously with the coaching changes there, but I felt like, and I still feel like, the Miami has to get better at linebacker. I don't. These guys simply weren't good enough, and I know that they say that the coaches have said that, inconsistent. They admit that some poor play in those big games, but the biggest thing, and maybe some things that I disagree with, they believe in the talent. They feel like they just need that spring practice, that development over the next year, and we'll see how this works out with spring ball and whatnot. I have a question about how good these guys are. Really, are they really going to be impact players? I think the way you look at it, and I know that this is how it goes. There becomes some criticism of the past linebackers with Pinckney and Quarterman because they just weren't that upper echelon guy that you guys were hoping for. They were certainly good. They were very good college players. But I think a lot of people were looking towards the future. Will Sam Brooks be that guy? Will Avery Huff be better than these guys? Speed, athleticism, you're looking at those attributes. And I think what we saw this past year is those guys just aren't ready. They're not ready yet, and they've got some development to do. And Brooks coming off the bowl game a year ago, you were hoping he would take a step, and he just didn't. His Pro Football Focus grades are really low this year. Avery Huff barely got on the field this year, and to me, and it was asked, and I don't know if I asked it this year or somebody else, but just with Avery's development, they just didn't felt like I think it comes down to the playbook. Just didn't feel like they could trust him to be out there for all the plays he needed to be. So that's kind of what's going on with linebacker with those two guys. I think those are the two most talked about linebackers. Although I know there's a lot of people now seeing like, okay, Corey Flagg is out there in his first year. Tyrique Austin Cave gets some mention a little bit too. He got some few snaps this year, but maybe those guys will take a jump, and we'll see. I think Corey Flagg's performance, and it's just unfortunate, but he was in there against North Carolina, 43 snaps and no tackles. It's just not good enough at any school. So we'll see how the development goes with those guys. And I know Corey was battling some injuries and in and out of the lineup. So once again, the coaches are confident the development will come with the linebackers. I'll just kind of wait and see how it goes. But I think that's the biggest area of improvement. That's where Blake Baker needs to really make his imprint right now. Obviously, the recruiting, a lot of attention on getting quality linebackers in at recruiting. They picked up a couple 3-stars in Tyler Johnson and Deshaun Troutman. Guys have made plays in high school, but it's just they've got to really take a big jump to be that impact player that you're hoping for. And then they're planning on, they could always move Thomas Davis there if they want to, but when Manny announced on signing day, Thomas will start out at defensive end. So that's kind of just my take on Blake a little bit. I'm reading the comments. Definitely drop on here. Carl's in here. Yeah, I see your disapproval of the linebackers. Hurricane Logan mentioned you already. Eric is here as well. Yeah, the really good linebackers. I still think with Quarterman and Pigney, I think that's what you would hope for. Obviously, you're trying to get better in that Denzel, those guys that play in the league for a long time and be those really impact players. I remember when I first started covering the team, obviously with Vilma and DJ Williams, but even guys coming up after that with Leon Williams was always a physical freak, but Rocky McIntosh, Tavares Gooden, Colin McCarthy, you mentioned Spence, but a lot of quality guys, and you're just hoping for that. And I think that'll really help the defense. So we'll see how Blake goes with the development there. I think that's important. So kind of moving right along. Once again, appreciate everybody for stopping by, talking about these 3 topics. Once again, plenty of in-depth stuff on the website. If you guys haven't checked out InsideTheU.com, plenty of stuff on there too every day. There's all kinds of topics and conversations to be had. Once again, links below. So hit the like button if you guys like this stream, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. I still plan on doing plenty of videos throughout this next year, even though so it's a ways away before games, but basically what we saw last year with what you guys liked with the videos, and try to do these more often as well. So the other big news that strikes me I want to talk about, and I know it's something that you guys talked about throughout the year, was Mike Rump at cornerbacks. What's going on with the cornerback play and recruiting. And essentially, Mike, obviously a former Hurricane, a lot of people remember all the great things he did for the school as a player, and it just didn't translate as a coach in terms of recruiting the top level cornerbacks that you need or that you're looking to do, particularly down in South Florida, because there are a lot of big time guys. And unfortunately, it's two sides of it, in the sense like it's great that you have this quality talent in the area. Essentially, year after year, there's always quality corners, but it also puts a lot of pressure on you to recruit them. You've got to land these guys, and I think ever since he wasn't able to land Surtain and Tyson Campbell out of American Heritage, where he coached and being around those guys, when he wasn't able to land those guys, and there were other guys too along the way, don't get me wrong, before and after. But I think right then it kind of really, the writing was on the wall for him. And if I remember right, that's the same class that got Ivy and with DJ Ivy and Al Blanche Jr. So you really needed those guys to really outperform their recruiting ranking. Essentially to, in a way, kind of justify the misses in recruiting particularly with Tyson. But I think not landing those guys, I think if you're not going to do that, you've got to really produce with your guys on the field. And Mike just, Coach Rump was just not able to get those guys. And once again, the attention and the pressure of each cycle coming through, and just not landing those top guys that you're looking for. Eventually, I think one of the reasons why he moved on. But what's interesting, and I know you guys find it interesting, so and I wrote about this on the updates when I was talking about Coach Rump. Basically, things I was hearing was he wasn't going to come back as the cornerbacks coach, but I wasn't convinced he was going to leave this university. And that's what I wrote. That's what I've been hearing. And I didn't really, um, it was just kind of just not definite that he was actually going to leave. And certainly, or sure enough, this week it was announced that he went ahead and he's going to be in the recruiting department, and he's not going to be an official coach. So I'm curious to see how that's going to work out. His involvement there. So with Coach Rump moving on to a different role, they go ahead and promote DeMarcus Van Dyke. It's his first college coaching position as a position coach. Actually on the staff, 31-year-old former Hurricane, played in the NFL. He was in the recruiting staff. You guys know that. I had obviously, you guys have seen the site, but I wrote that he was going to Utah State, and that was definitely the case. I don't know how to make it even more clear. I wouldn't have wrote it. Multiple sources were telling me um, that was a done deal. That was the plan. He was going to go to Utah State, be the cornerbacks coach there. I wrote that on the January 3rd, and then on the 7th, by then things had changed with Coach Rump. They bring in Coach Robinson, and basically I was kind of hearing that there was a chance Coach Van Dyke would stay on board as a cornerbacks coach. Although I know Coach Robinson wanted to coach corners and safety, so I was um, I wrote that, but I was a little bit unsure exactly how that was going to play out. And sure enough, Coach Robinson was named the defensive backs coach, and Van Dyke was named the cornerbacks coach at Miami. So essentially, he'll help out. I think it's going to be good for Van Dyke to stay with the university. I know he's excited to be on field as a coach. I think without question, he wasn't going to stay at UM in that recruiting role. He certainly wanted to be back on the field as a coach. He last coached at ASA College in Miami as a cornerbacks coach in 2017. So he's getting back out there on the field. He's going to be the actual cornerbacks coach. And then also, I know he's happy to stay in Miami with his family and things like that. So I think it's a good thing. I think one thing that when you're talking about these coaching changes, a few years ago, the NCAA added the extra coach on the assistant. You were able to add an assistant coach. And I think that kind of changed a lot of things, because for years, it was always the same amount of assistant coaches, and it was pretty uniform in terms of what you were going to do with your assistants, in terms of what roles they were going to be in. So adding that extra one, and actually ended up being Coach Patke at the outside linebacker spot and taking on the special teams coordinator role. So that's where Van Dyke comes in, and essentially they're able to add that extra defensive backs coach, and they've been running with two as it was, but that's kind of why things got a little bit, you have some flexibility with that. You could obviously, some other staffs are doing that. I've talked to some other coaches about that, about kind of where things are going with coaching, and they, it seems teams are really doing that corner safety split. And again, once again, it's going to be kind of more of a, Robinson's still going to do both, but with so many defensive backs on a roster, with a lot of teams playing that offenses playing with multiple receivers, you kind of have more corners, more safeties, more defensive backs on the roster than you have in years past. So it does make sense to have that extra guy. And I know Miami has been playing under the numbers that they would like at corner and safety. So I think they'd like to get some more guys in there in terms of their overall numbers in their room. So maybe look for that in upcoming recruiting classes. So and with that, I was kind of just thinking off the top of my head with Avonte Williams. Maybe I'll get to that, but Tyrique Stevenson, I guess we can jump right into that. Oh, just before we get going, before we wrap up on coaching changes, once again, talked about Van Dyke, talked about Coach Baker. They bring back Jess Simpson as the defensive line coach. And again, on those live updates, I keep bringing them up because it was stuff that I was talking about. But Coach Stroud was going to move on because of, and he is going to stay with the university as an advisory role. So he'll stay on board with the university. And then they bring in Coach Simpson, who actually coached these guys, recruited these guys on the defensive line. So he has experience. And I'm not surprised by seeing that, because one thing with Coach Diaz, and you've seen it just as the people he knows, he likes to, stay close with them, and he feels confident in things they're doing, particularly on defense. Even though there were some things that kind of dropped off this past year, but I know they feel like they didn't need the complete overhaul the way he felt like about the offense a year ago. Kira's in here. Glad you're here. Appreciate everybody stopping by and asking questions and commenting. Just keep it going. Okay, so talking about Tyrique Stevenson, and I've talked to different people that are close to him, as well as I'll just say, just people within the Miami program. And I saw Tyrique play quite a bit in high school. I'll just start with that. Playing there at Southridge. He started his career at South Dade. Really talented group of guys at that time when he was out South Dade. But plays at Southridge, standout player. He was fun to watch. Enjoyed talking to him, making plays. And now obviously goes to Georgia, enters the portal. So what's going on with Tyrique? I think a lot of people expect him to come to Miami. And I will say, as far as an update goes, Miami feels good about landing him. They feel like they will. It's only a matter of time sorting through some things. And I think locally, he's expect people talking to them locally also kind of expect him to come end up at Miami. I think maybe the biggest team to kind of watch for is Florida. Um, trying to get him to transfer there. Um, but I think if I were to my prediction or my thoughts at this point in time, I do expect him to be at Miami. Once again, I know Miami feels good about him, but they know that it is a battle because he is a talented player. He's a talented player in high school. Certainly, a lot of people would like to have him um, back at their school. And interesting in watching him play cornerback in high school and just kind of where he would fit in the college level. I do think he could play cornerback in the ACC. He's certainly a bigger corner. I like his athleticism, though. I like that he tackles, and I think with Miami's defense, they really like that, and I think he'll compete. And certainly, I think he'll be a quality corner. If he wants to do that, he could slide to safety. One and two, you can move him around. And I think the thing that stands out to me with Tyrique, and if you see him, he's certainly a bigger corner. Um, but I like the flexibility that you're able to kind of move him around and make plays on the ball. Those kind of things. I went to one of his games. He had 3 interceptions in a game, and in high school. So he's just a guy that can do well. They would flip him to receiver at times when they needed big plays. And certainly one of those guys that, you see the high ranking in high school, and sometimes you kind of question, okay, but are they that good or is he overrated? I think Stevenson was certainly um, I think it was a high level recruit, a high level talent. I certainly believed in his abilities and would have been a great fit at Miami last year. And I think he definitely would have got in there. And I think it would give him a little bit more flexibility in terms of guarding those bigger receivers because Miami, it felt like each and every week they were going against a receiver that was 6'3", 6'4", 210, 205 to 215, somewhere in that range, and 220. It just felt like sometimes even though DJ Ivey was their bigger corner, Tyrique has a little bit more size than that. So I think that would give them more flexibility in the cornerback room and another quality guy that you can put out there. I know they like Isaiah Dunson and Marcus Clark. I'm unsure if they're ready yet for that level of, just the constant reps being in there at the ACC level. But, Stevenson's a guy that you can essentially throw right in there in the mix, and certainly you're looking to him to be a lead role, potentially start. That's where you're looking for him. I think Stevenson, not only the lure of coming home, but I think if you look at a guy like James Williams, 5-star recruit coming in as a safety, guys like that make a difference with other players. So a guy like Stevenson, maybe he wasn't, for whatever reason, didn't go to Miami, but now that he sees a guy like James coming in, now you're wondering, now he's probably looking at the situation a lot differently of playing with a guy like that, growing with him. You certainly have to be, it definitely changes things, I would say. So that's just a little bit of a Tyrique Stevenson update. I do think it's only a matter of time. I don't think this thing's going to drag out a long time. I think it'll get sorted fairly quickly. If you guys are interested, Miami opens their spring semester January 25th. So essentially, that's when it would be. But they also have a week after that. I think it's February 2nd. I'm pretty sure that's the last day to add a class or to enroll. So maybe look for that. But um, and talking about Avonte Williams, just because I brought him up there, I think some people always talk about, can he play corner? And I think you're looking at that 6'1", 180 kind of range. Maybe he can play corner, but I just keep being told that he's definitely a safety. So very physical. So you can, just kind of, that's just what I've been told, and that's where Miami was planning on starting him um, in the fall before he was ruled out for the season. So, and we will hopefully get an update. Um, or we'll know maybe something this month in terms of how things are going with Avonte. I asked Coach Diaz about that during bowl week. Asked about how Avonte was doing, and just because we've seen him at practice. He was out there at practices doing non-contact drills, but he never was cleared for contact. And he said he'd be re-evaluated this month. So we'll see with that. Um, yeah, definitely drop in any other comments. I want to get to Tate Martell because I wrote an article about him and on the website there, and just kind of just to clarify or maybe just discuss that situation. Um, let's see. So Tate obviously gets suspended for the opener last year, then decides to opt out for the season. And based on what I was told, he was not around the program during that time for those months for the season. And frankly, the Miami staff was, and I kept writing it, and you guys saw it in my articles. Just I would say that he was just not expected to return. Um, However, that seems to be a little bit more on the up in the air. And the Miami staff, I will say that they weren't expecting him to necessarily return either. Um, just based on everything, based on all the situations. However, on the flip side of it, I kind of talking to sources, it seems like, or what I wrote was that Martell intends to return this month when classes begin. With that being said, and this is what I wrote, certainly discussions will have to be made between the staff and Martell to clear a lot of things. I think that they have to sort through some things, not just based on how last season went, but in 2019, Martell was kind of with the team, away from the team due to personal reasons. And I just think that they'll need to sort through it, and we'll see what happens. I don't think um, it's a bit of a surprise, I guess, just everything that's going on. But on the flip side, if you look at it like from Martell's point of view, he's had all semester to look ahead to his next stop, and we've just not seen him. Um, there's been no word of him entering the portal at, up until now. And if it did, it would have been out there. We would have reported on that. We've got good sources with the portal, and then also, just for whatever reason, if Martell wants to return, or maybe he was looking to leave, or whatever was going on, some situations might have changed with the quarterback situation with De'Aaron King getting hurt, N'Kosi Perry going ahead and leaving. I don't know if that makes a difference. I think if there is, if the coaches want to move on, you definitely understand that. You understand why they've got some young guys that they want, or that they like. They talked about Tyler Van Dyke, Peyton Matoka also got some reps during the season this past year. Jake Garcia is a guy that they like, that they signed in December. He's a guy that I'm really high on. I think he's the best of the three, to be honest with you. I think he's going to be the Hurricane quarterback of the future. However, if he doesn't enroll early, so maybe now you're looking at the situation of um, Matoka, Van Dyke, and the walk-on situation for the spring ball. And if you do clear the air with Martell, and what if King's not ready for the opener? How does that work out for the season? So I think there's a lot of things in play. You can definitely see it both sides of it, um, but certainly you can definitely understand why Miami would want to just move on. And the quarterback situation is a very difficult one to navigate. I always feel like if we're talking about a short list of things coaches have to get right during their coaching careers in college, I think the quarterback position is one of the top priorities, one of those top things on the list that you have to get right in terms of picking the right one, naming it at the right time, obviously recruiting top talent. So it's definitely a tricky situation, um, and how to navigate things. And we've seen that in the past at Miami with how coaches have, navigated through the coaching or the quarterback situation. So we'll see how it goes. I think, there's certainly more news to be had with Martell. And if I hear anything else, I'll definitely put updates on the site. Um, but certainly, you know, we'll see. And like I said, it surprised me too. And I remember just kind of like, well, am I going to write this? But it is what I heard. So obviously, trust sources and people I talk to. Um, and then that's just the thing about reporting. You can't always worry about your own opinions on certain things. So we'll see. Anthony, what's going on? Appreciate you stopping by. I see a lot of people want to talk about linebacker transfer there. Yeah, hopefully Miami can get one. I thought linebacker, you guys heard me at the beginning of this stream. I thought that was the position that I felt like Miami needed to target the most. Um, Certainly getting Charleston Rambo at wide receiver is a nice one. Um, is a nice addition. I apologize. Nice addition. He's a guy that played in a top level program. Got passed over by guys this past season, but maybe you get something there. But I just felt like if we're going to pick one position, I felt like linebacker. I still feel like linebacker is the one that they've got to get someone else in there. A high quality guy. There's a lot of guys out there. Um, and so we'll see. So we'll see how that goes. And the reason why, it's not necessarily that the wide receivers were great, but you get Mike Harley back. I still believe, and I was kind of thinking this as the season went on, but if you could just get a little bit of production improvement from the wide receivers with Pope and Wiggins. Harley was very good in the second half of the season with his production. I feel like De'Aaron King makes a big difference in the production of the wide receivers as well. Um, but just the tight end play as well helps the passing game. We got Will Mallory back. I still feel like there's more production to be had in the passing game with the running backs. I think all the three of the guys, although I like Knighton and Cam Harris a little bit better, or I like them better as receivers than Don Chaney. But Chaney can certainly catch passes, and I just think there's more flexibility that you can do there. I was surprised that Knighton didn't get as many opportunities to catch the ball, um, but maybe next year. So no, Mallory is coming back, and I actually asked Will. Sometimes these things when you just assume what's going to happen, I just frankly just asked if Will even thought about leaving because look, he's a third-year junior that was draft eligible. He produced when he played. He has good size, and we saw some good speed with his downfield stuff and some stretch plays up the middle, um, some stretch patterns. But uh, yeah, he said he's definitely coming. He was definitely going to come back, and he plans to play the next 2 years. So that was what he said. So um, I know there wasn't anything written about much written about it because people just expect him. So um, okay, Anthony. Yep, I always appreciate your comments. Yeah, I've been kind of skipping out. I see you guys, a lot of people chatting and asking stuff. Martin as well. Um, early enrollees get an exemption. Yeah, there's a lot to. And then Anthony wants to know about any updates on the NCAA adding more scholarships this year. Yeah, we'll see about that. I think it's just a wait and see how things are going to shake out, and we just haven't seen that. And I know from the basketball side of things, they're really frustrated with not knowing, and football's just trying to operate as much as possible um, with how things are going with that. There's just no update. There's a lot going on. Certainly, all these teams would like to know. They had the early signing period in December. You would think things would have got sorted before that, but it didn't. And now teams are only a couple weeks away. If you guys, it's kind of surprising the way National Signing Day goes in the first week of February. Almost gets brushed aside because there's not a lot of guys to go after. Miami doesn't have a bunch of guys either, but to add to the class. But yeah, we'll see kind of how it works out. I just think it's a wait and see with everything. Um, if you guys covering the other sports, baseball just released the ACC schedule this week. Still haven't announced their full schedule, so everything's just a little bit delayed and trying to sort through everything. Um, and this month is actually when they typically, kind of mid to late January, is when they announce the upcoming schedule for the season. I don't know if that's going to come. I assume that'll be a delay as well. Marley Mar, definitely, I'll catch up with you this weekend. Always appreciate you jumping on. Definitely we'll talk. But yeah, Jay Michael's here. Yep. And that's the thing, Jay Michael, just with Mallory blocking better, getting stronger, it seems like that's something I've asked about. It feels like every year, with either tight ends coach or offensive coordinator about Will. Just they keep saying he's improving in that area, so certainly more improvement to go. Um, so with Brevin, um, Anthony, with Brevin leaving to the NFL with prediction on who's going to be the second tight end. Yeah, okay, so Elijah Arroyo. Yeah, definitely with Elijah, a lot of talent there. You like that. I think it's going to take a little bit. I think Larry Hodges is going to be that first guy to get that first opportunity. Coaches spoke about him. I wrote an article about him. Coach talked about him. Will spoke highly about him. And these questions aren't necessarily directed to how should I say? They're not necessarily leading questions. They're very open questions, like just what are your thoughts on these guys, or Dominic and Larry, how they're doing, and they both gave glowing reviews of Larry, and I thought that was interesting So they really believe in his talent, although we've only seen him catch 3 passes in the first 2 years he's been at UM, but they certainly believe in him. So we'll see if Larry gets a little bit bigger. I think if he adds maybe about 10 more pounds in the offseason, I think that might be about right, um, or at least close to get that 240-pound range. He's kind of in that 230, 235 the last I knew. So I think Larry Hodges will be the guy, but I think Elijah Arroyo certainly, if he can progress, he's certainly a guy that made a lot of big plays. Um, Maybe they're just going to bring him on a little slowly, but again, if Hodges doesn't perform, they'll get Arroyo in there. Um, so definitely you're looking for him. Certainly, if Will moves on after this season, definitely look for Elijah in 2022. So there we go with that. There's a lot to talk about. Um, just on a side note, if you guys, I'm planning on doing, the basketball team. I know things are struggling. I don't ever talk about the basketball team on the live stream, but tomorrow they got a big game against Louisville, so I'm planning on doing kind of a preview, kind of a shorter one, just on that game. I've watched Louisville a ton, so maybe chime in about them as well. But and definitely, if you guys haven't seen maybe some of the videos, I'm kind of restarting some of the series with the ITU games playlist and things like that. I've been doing that with the baseball series, Road to the College World Series, got the basketball thing still going. And for you guys, as some of you have asked about the NCAA 14 series that I did, I'm still trying to decide when exactly to do that because I want to make sure I include all the updated rosters for Miami. So I don't know if I'm going to do it before the spring. Maybe you guys have an idea. If I want to do it before spring ball or do it afterwards like I did last year when the spring was cut short and kind of run it all summer. And I don't, the way it works now, I kind of don't want to get ahead in the season. I kind of want to run 2021 during the calendar year. But anyways, if you guys have comments on that, just definitely jump in. Just a few updates, housekeeping there. And appreciate everybody for jumping on the stream. Just kind of no new notice here. Not a lot of notice, and hopefully the audio is working out. Just kind of want to jump on right here. Charles Brown, that's a good question about the O-line depth chart and who plays at center. It just feels like it's Corey Gaynor. He's a guy that they like. I think Corey's got to get better. I'm curious about the offensive line, if they're really going to, how much they're really going to shuffle it up here. So we'll see. Navon Donaldson gets back in the mix. We're still waiting on an official word about Jared Williams to announce his decision, but Coach Garen Justice didn't expect him to return. I would still expect him to leave, but we'll see. There's nothing official there if he's going to return, and he would start at right tackle there. And then I know Mason asked about the CF college football revamped yet. I've not touched it yet, but definitely curious about that. But I know they've done some work, and there's a lot of stuff to check out. So, okay. Martin wants to know about, do you think we'll start hearing from the 2022 recruits, and how do you think we will do on the recruiting front with that class? So yeah, they only got a couple commits right now. You're starting to see some updates on the website. If you guys haven't yet, there's some VIP updates on InsideTheU.com on some 2022s. And the way it kind of works in years past, as soon as that signing period happens in early February, that month of February tends to turn over pretty quickly into those 2022s, although this month and next month they've typically in years past had a lot of 7-on-7 tryouts. That you're starting to see combines and camps and things like that kind of start this month moving on. However, with everything going on with the pandemic, things are changing a little bit, so it's a little bit more delayed. You're not getting as many updates as possible, but certainly I think it's going to start turning over pretty quickly. And I think Miami will do well with the recruiting because they have a momentum from this past class. Or some high-level local guys, and I think guys like James Williams, I mentioned earlier, Tyrique Stevenson, if they get him on board, some of these guys make a big difference within their communities and local. That's the thing about recruiting locally. When you get these top-level guys, it's not just their abilities and what they bring to your team. I think they impact future guys, either guys they played with in high school, but people just know these guys as well, and in a way look up to them in a sense as well. So I think those guys, I think it'll definitely help. I think you'll see some momentum as well. And Miami went 8-3, and I know people are disappointed with the last 2 games, But if they were able to recruit after 6 and 7, get some top level guys in, I think 8-3 is a little bit better. You're still looking for, um, just keep improving on some of these classes. So we'll see how it works out. Um, and yeah, so looking through some other questions, I do want to wrap this up, keep it fairly short. I do want to do these more often. I said that after last time. Um, Last one was signing day. I did not do one about the bowl game. Didn't discuss about that. But I think it's important to do these because there's a lot of news kind of coming out, and it's a way to chat with you guys. Maybe, like I said, kind of clarify some reports, and hopefully we get to hear from Coach Diaz. If I have any, questions, I ask him or other coaches. I will certainly kind of share that on these as well. I think that's maybe it's something that you guys like as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more of these. I'll keep working on some other things. Hopefully the audio get that a little bit better, and just gonna work on a few other things. But definitely appreciate everyone. Lance popped in on that wide receiver comment. Definitely, man. It's like this every year. It's even though there's no games, there's so much to talk about. I did this one of the live streams. We only talked about receivers. I feel like we could do that with a lot of positions. We could certainly just talk about quarterback situation, but just the running backs. I know you guys. Some of you guys like Cheney better or Knighton, or you like Cam Harris coming back, and maybe you guys like Thad Franklin. Curious how he mixes in and all these things. So there's so much to talk about with the team. Moving parts, roster management, things are starting to kind of come together. But basically, today was about the coaching changes. Talked about that. Craig wants to know if spring ball is a go. We've not heard it's not, but we'll see. I know baseball practices are getting started this month, but as of now, they've always had open practices um, for forever, it seems like. But I'd be surprised if they have open practices now. So I think um, maybe I'm thinking about that with spring ball as well. So they might have it. I assume they will, but certainly limited. And I don't know if we'd be able to go out there and all that kind of stuff. So we'll just stay tuned. Hopefully everybody's doing well, hanging in there. I know it's been a difficult year on so many levels, but hopefully everybody's doing okay. I appreciate everybody for stopping by on this. If you guys want to, still chat, definitely drop in the comments on this video. You can watch it back, or if you didn't catch the beginning, you can certainly watch it back. But drop in the comments, I'll go ahead and check it back and comment on stuff. And I certainly didn't get to everybody's questions. Um, and I see Anthony wants to know about Isaiah Walker before we get out of here. Yeah, he's certainly in the mix, so we'll see. Other guys are ahead of him right now, but we'll see how his development goes. They're looking at him at tackle, but certainly guard could be an option as well. Jalen Rivers is another guard tackle. Right now, I think he's slotting more into guard. They've talked about that, but certainly could go out to tackle. So we'll see. I'm curious how things are going to shake out moving forward. Definitely appreciate everybody. I want to do this more often. Thanks again for stopping by. I appreciate your support once again for stopping by. J. Michael, appreciate you. And thanks again. And once again, before I get out of here, I'll do another video tomorrow. We can talk a little bit about basketball and how things have gone on there. Certainly, I know there's not as many fans, but if you guys want to talk about it, drop on there tomorrow. Appreciate everybody. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate your support. Take care.